What's up guys, MTG Tournament Grinder here, and welcome to this week's episode of Modern. This time around we've got Hardened Scales versus Jund. So I realize I've featured this matchup at least once before, but I just had to show this one. God, look how bad this start is. 4 lands, 2 Arcbound Ravagers, on a mold of 6. Looked like that was a Welding Jar that was described to the bottom. Welding Jar is good against Jund in the sense that they play lots of destroy removal effects. Yikes. Well, it's obvious he's going to take a Ravager. Yeah, but Welding Jar is not a creature, and I just need more threats. So Welding Jar had to go to the bottom. Top deck of Mox, no point in bluffing. And I feel the need to explain myself here. I do not play the Ravager, because I am so certain that he's going to remove it. I don't want to play it into an empty field where I can't get any value. See, yikes. I was not expecting a second hand removal spell, was the only problem. So this is not a good start. Not a good start at all. But hey, Ancient Stirrings is never a bad top deck. Gives you some options. It looks like a snap keep for Hangerback Walker. Yeah, in this matchup, where I'm expecting lots of 1-for-1 removal, Hangerback Walker is like, is an automatic 2-for-1 in a sense. If my opponent uses a spell for the Hangerback Walker itself, immediately, and then also for the token. I think it's better to play into an empty board against Jund. It's kind of sad that I have 2 Arcbound Ravagers in the graveyard already, and 1 at the bottom of my library, but I think Hangerback Walker is worth it. Darn, Ruins of Oran Reef. Just a tap land. Meanwhile, my opponent has played a Russian, I believe, Dark Confidant. And without a Walking Ballista or any way to take care of it, he's going to be drawing some cards. Jund tends to reveal things like Abrupt Decay, Liliana of the Veil. Oh, okay, well I lucked out that time. But, I mean, like Bloodbright Elf, it could have been a lot of bad cards. And when I say bad, I mean bad for me, the opponent of Jund. Fantastic cards. But I say bad because they're just so good against me. Yeah, just a forest in hand. A Hangerback Walker on 1, and a forest in hand. A Mox Opal, but with no Metalcraft. This does not look good, but yeah. This is why I didn't attack last time, so I could activate at his instep and try to up it to 2. But man, that sinking feeling you get when your opponent has to fetch in response, it's pretty real. Oh no. Yeah, that's really good. Destroy the Mox Opal and deal 2 damage to the Hangerback Walker. And that's with its ability on the stack, so I never get the second counter. Only 1 Thopter. Oh, it looks like I drew another Hangerback Walker, if my eyes don't deceive me. Okay, actually, nice. Because the Ruins of Oran Reef is now untapped, and I already had the 5th land in hand. That's immediately a 3/3. Jeez, he's not taking any damage, but at least he's also not drawing any removal spells that I know about. It's always possible he's drawing really good spells in between the lands, which is like my nightmare, I guess. I'm not sure what the Jund player really wants to see up Dark Confidants, but I imagine not taking any damage and drawing powerful spells in between the lands is like ideal. But since he has 2 Dark Confidants now, I think the plan is just to beat down. Yeah, it's 4 and 1 infect. Beat down as best I can and hope that those Dark Confidants do a little bit of the work for me. Wow. So at this point, that's like too many lands, I think. But, I mean, my plan of having the Dark Confidants helped me out along the way. It's not working out. And they're beating in for 4. I mean, we'll see where this goes. Nice. Just a 2-mana 5/6, no big deal. Yeah, looking at the graveyards. Artifact, creature, instant, sorcery, land. So 5/6. That's awesome. He's got this sweet little dice that, like the Goyf dice, Tarmo die, whatever they call it. Super cool. So I could be wrong, but I think I top decked a Walking Ballista here. So I'm thinking about the line, but potentially it's like continue to beat down, continue to send a message, and just swing all out. If he blocks, I get more flyers. Like if he blocks my Hangerback Walker with the Goyf, I get 3 Thopters, which he has a harder time dealing with, actually. And then with the Walking Ballista in hand, I can play it for 3, the same way I played the Hangerback Walker for 3. And then shoot the Goyf for the final 3 points of damage. Whether or not I was going to commit to like part 2 of the plan depended on whether or not, you know, he took the bait. I'm still not sure if it's a good play. It's kind of like a 2-for-1, but I get 3 Thopters out of the deal. So it's like a -1 for 2? I don't know. I don't know what that does to the math. Hangerback Walker can be nice. No, responding to the trigger. Same way he did for the Hangerback Walker. Yeah, I think he sees the line and he wants to force my hand with this Welding Jar, which he indeed does. I mean, I've got plenty of land. There might be a universe in which I would let that resolve to go find a green source, because I had 2 Hardened Scales stuck in my hand, or an Ancient Stirrings that I couldn't use. Oh, that's right, it still does resolve. See, now I'm the one making the mistake. Regeneration is quite confusing, because Assassin's Trophy did resolve. It did get destroyed. It just never left the battlefield. Therefore, the trigger to go search up a land still takes place. My opponent was kind enough to remind me as well. So I always appreciate it when my opponents keep me on track. So that was, I almost talked over it. That was Scavenging Ooze and another Dark Confidant. So he finally took some damage off those Dark Confidants. I don't think he wants to play a third, although Scavenging Ooze is actually pretty bad. He has quite a few green sources, and I know I have at least 3 creatures in my graveyard. I can see the Goyf on top of his, so he has the ability to gain quite a bit of life from Scavenging Ooze. Makes killing him with these Thopters a little tougher. Couldn't see what I drew. Looks like we're about to find out. Okay, nice. I mean, this is the right matchup to see 3 Hangerback Walkers. Some matchups it feels just awful, like when your opponent has the ability to bounce your creatures, or exile them, or terminus them. Hangerback Walker feels terrible in those situations. But against Jund, where they can't exile, nice, 2 more damage. But he's going to gain even more life from the Scoos. Anyways, Hangerback Walker feels good in this matchup. I think with the number of creatures in the yard, it's kind of unclear. Unfortunately, my yard is all glared out from the light in the room. I think he can only gain like maximum 3 or 4 more life. And with the number of Thopters I'm presenting, yeah. And if he attacks, it's like I get Thopters. Well, that was a pretty interesting game 1. It started off real bad, and I just drew Hangerback Walker after Hangerback Walker, and it turns out that is enough sometimes. So let's go ahead and take a look at some sideboarding, and I'll see you guys in game 2. As for my own sideboard, I brought in 2 copies of Heroic Intervention, mainly because this card is really good against cannot be regenerated cards, most notably Damnation or Terminate. I did not see any of those in game 1, but that was mostly just luck. I still want to be prepared for when I will probably see them in game 2. And in a weird way, 2 copies of Heroic Intervention is kind of like 2 extra copies of Welding Jar, in the sense that they can save creatures you control. The only difference is that Welding Jar can only save 1 artifact 1 time, while Heroic Intervention is all your permanents until end of turn. So it's like a super Welding Jar at instant speed. And this matchup in particular is one where Heroic Intervention really shines. I also brought in 2 copies of Dismember, mainly for killing Goyfs, although if a Dark Confidant is going to really put your opponent ahead, it wouldn't be a bad thing to kill a Dark Confidant. Most of the time I would save it for one of those 2 creatures. Another example of when Dismember would be good is if your opponent has just played Scavenging Ooze, and they're about to gain some life, and that life gain could mean the difference between winning the game or even winning the match or not. Instant speed removal is always good. And I'm not sure if I've used it for this before, but incidentally, casting Dismember to kill your own Hangerback Walker might actually be a good play. If you don't have an Arcbound Ravager, and you don't have a sack outlet to turn a Hangerback Walker into Thopters, you can actually dismember your own Hangerback Walker, because as we saw in game 1, Thopters can be pretty hard to deal with for Jund, especially when they come 3 or 4 at a time. Now, of course, Maelstrom Pulse would be a really good card against the whole token strategy, but we'll just cross that bridge when we come to it, or cast our Heroic Intervention if that's the case. And lastly, I brought in 2 copies of Karn, Scion of Urza. Karn is in the sideboard for matchups like this, the grindy matchups. His +1 can help directly via card advantage, and its -2 can help by presenting multiple threats. So 1 card presenting multiple threats is kind of what makes Hangerback Walkers so good, and by that same logic, Karn, Scion of Urza is also good in this matchup. Although, I will be honest, I don't really like this card that much in the sideboard of Hardened Scales. I find I don't bring it in very often, and even if I do draw it, it does not feel like it just wins me the game hands down, the way, say, Grafdigger's Cage feels when you play it against Dredge. Well, this example isn't nearly as exciting, but a Stony Silence against Affinity. You know, there are like some really, really good sideboard cards out there. I feel that Karn, while interesting, might not deserve the 2 slots that he occupies in my sideboard. So let me know what you think about that in the comments below, and if you have any suggestions as to a card that might replace him, feel free to name drop those as well. Now, as for my opponent, I actually didn't get a look at what he brought in, so I went on MTG Top 8 and compared the sideboard of all the Jund lists that have top 8'd in the past 2 months. And these are the best cards that Jund has access to. If the same deck has all 4 of these cards, then RIP Hardened Scales. But Ancient Grudge would be really good if you have it. Built-in 2-for-1s are pretty sweet. Anger of the Gods. Board wipes are always amazing, but this one, because it exiles, makes it where I don't even get the Thopters from Hangerback Walker, or the modular triggers from my Arcbound Ravagers or Workers, so it's quite good. Engineered Explosives. If I'm going with the Thopter route, you can just play it for 0, blow up all my creature tokens. If I already have a Hardened Scales and have played a couple of Arcbound Workers, playing it for 1 is good. Otherwise, 2 is where all the best cards are at. Arcbound Ravager, Steel Overseer, Metallic Mimic. It just depends on what kind of board I've built for myself. Engineered Explosives is flexible enough to be good against all of them. And then honestly, I think the one I would be least excited to see is Leyline of the Void. So Leyline of the Void is kinda like a one-sided Rest in Peace, in the sense that nothing touches my graveyard. If it would, it is exiled instead. No modular triggers, no Thopters from Hangerback Walker. And that really, honestly, turns off my deck pretty hardcore. Mulliganing really aggressively for a Leyline of the Void, if you're playing against Hardened Scales, is low-key like a good strat. And I think that about wraps it up for the sideboard. So let's go ahead and jump back into game 2 and see if I can get there once again. And we are back with game 2. Looks like I am mulliganing to 6 once again. So I'll be on the draw and on a mull to 6 for both games. At least it's better than 4 lands, 2 Ravagers. Dismembers the Scry. I mean, it's a sideboard card. I brought it in for Goyfs. So let's keep it on top. Dodge the hand disruption. Okay. So this is already going a lot better than game 1. Even though I don't have a real turn 1 play. It's a big improvement on the first game. Yikes though. Turn 2 Dark Confidant. So you know, this actually might be one of those situations that I was talking about during the sideboarding. Where you might want to use Dismember to kill a Dark Confidant. This early in the game, it's just going to draw him enough removal spells, probably, to win. So yeah, make Metalcraft, Mox for Dismember. It feels kind of bad to take myself to 16, but not as bad as that feels. Korean Liliana of the Last Hope, I think, is what language that is, and he used it to kill my Hangerback Walker. So no real value there, other than the, I mean, the one Thopter's value, honestly. One Thopter is value. Arcbound Ravager, and I have a Worker and a Heroic Intervention in hand. So I could either hold up the Heroic Intervention or I could play the Worker. And I hope I hold up the, okay, good. I'm holding up Heroic Intervention. And meanwhile, hopefully, I can figure out what to do about his Liliana. I suppose I could have sacked my whole board on the previous turn. Instead of just hitting it for 1, I could have killed it. But that's not good against Jund, to put all your eggs in one basket. Well, yeah, I think my lands are important to developing my board. Just sack the Thopter. Now I have an Arcbound that can't be Liliana +1'd. At least not to death anyway. Arcbound Ravager certainly isn't going to help me kill her. Not at this rate. Yikes. Artifact creature. Instant. 3/4. Here comes the Worker. So now I can hold up Heroic Intervention while playing him. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not going to get through on the ground. And Arcbound is like a 0/1 essentially right now. So, just keep Lily in check. Keep her from getting to her ultimate while I hope I draw into a legitimate answer. I think, honestly, this like +1, and then I swing for 1, and then she pluses for 1, and then I swing for 1. So this is like a bad use of resources, but I'm not gonna corner myself. Yeah, see, here she goes. He's gotten a lot of value out of her, but I don't want to corner myself in the sense of by putting all my counters on one creature. I mean, not if I can avoid it, but that's what she's gonna make me do anyways. Now, if I draw my other Dismember, I can just swing for 4 directly at Liliana. That's kind of a slim chance, and nope, that's not a Dismember. Although, if I draw into any creatures from here on out, Ruins of Warren Reef will certainly help there. Swing for 1, no blocks, and I declared it at face for some reason. I think it's like, I'm just playing to my outs. It's the way this game is proceeding, aka very, very slowly. An animation module could actually be good. Oof, though. Kogan's command. Well, you know, that's what, it's not a damnation, so it's not as much value as I could get out of a Heroic Intervention, but that's what it's here for. So cast Heroic Intervention. I believe the 2 modes were make me discard a card and destroy target artifact. So my question, what we're discussing here, is if I give my Arcbound Ravager hexproof, does that make both modes fizzle? We decided no, because it's 2 separate targets, but Heroic Intervention was my last card in hand. So because I didn't have a card to discard, it essentially made the whole spell fizzle this time. Magic is hard. Magic is complicated. Yeah, it by no means kills the Arcbound Ravager, but by continuing to plus, it kind of makes him a lot less effective. And he's getting further along the road to getting to his Liliana is to getting to her ultimate. God, he has so much mana up and several cards in hand. Yeah, so one at face, one at Lily. No blocks. Do math. Think about the cards that he might have, and I mean, I'm too chicken to sack my whole board. Even with the Welding Jar, he has 4 mana and 3 cards in hand. So it's totally possible that there's 2 removal spells in there. Yikes. Let's see what happens. And deal 2 damage to target creature. So he was probably waiting for me to go all in. And because I didn't go all in, and he had already said no blocks, he let the damage through. Then ended up doing it at my end step. I can see why he waited to the last possible second, hoping that that I would like take the bait and he could get more value. Yeah, because I used the Welding Jar, though my Arcbound Ravager is tapped. He has a 4/5. Still no swinging though. I mean, I guess that makes sense. If his Goyf was tapped right now, I would be killing his Liliana. So you can't have that. Well, Hardened Scales, better late than never. It certainly would have been good quite some time ago. So now, sacking my way into Lethal Infect is like a serious reality. Hardened Scales makes that quite easy. Or rather, it adds up really quick with Hardened Scales on the battlefield. But oh my goodness, I forgot completely about that Raging Ravine. So a 4/5 and a 3/3. It is being blocked by 7/8. So I need to make my guy an 8/8. Oh, but he has -2, -1. So I need to give my guy a defensive 9 because after the -2, -1 from Liliana, that'll make his defense 8, which is what it needs to be to live through the combined power of 7. Gosh, I said it earlier, but man, Magic is hard. There's so much math. Honestly, like, thank God I top decked Hardened Scales. Even with Hardened Scales, I had to sack my whole board to keep that from being an absolute blowout. So Lily takes the 1. Arcbound Ravager has 9 counters on it. My opponent is at 2 Infect. So he doesn't have a whole lot of cards in hand. It looks like 2, maybe 3. There's tons of removal in the deck. It's like any removal spell, and I think he's okay. No, Bloodbraid into Tarmogoyf. That is not a removal spell. Yeah, well, I mean, this is a good example of how a truly terrible matchup can sometimes just go your way. As usual, if you enjoy content like this, you can let me know in the comments below, or by hitting that subscribe button. So, thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.